Hey guys, welcome to another awesome, exciting Blender tutorial. Today it is episode 3 of Blender here on Active TV. Yes, guys, I've released 2 other episodes of Blender, Learning Blender. If you want to go check them out, just check the link that I've just placed. You'll see on the top right corner there. Go check those out as well if you are getting lost in this one. But today we are looking at shaders. What are shaders? Well, shaders are basically the thing that where you're now able to add color to your object. And what's awesome is that this currently, at this time that I'm recording, I'm using Blender 2.9, and from Blender 2.7 there was a new shader, yes, that was created in Blender. If you don't know this, but Blender is an open source software. It's free, so if you think you downloaded it and you're stealing it, relax, ease your conscience. It is free, and what we have is that we actually have a whole lot of developers that are working together on this tool. You have people, a community of developers working on it, and like I said, they've created a new shader. It's not that new, but from 2.7, and we're going to learn about that today because it is so simple, very easy. All right, and so I've just opened up a fresh file here, okay, and I've got my standard default cube, my default light, and my default camera that I've got here. This is your standard that you open up with. So last week we modeled a Lego block, okay, but Ryan, my Lego block is gray like this, and that's not really, what Lego blocks look like. How do I add color to it, right? Because I want my Lego block to be blue, or I want it to be green, or I want a pink Lego block, or I want a purple Lego block, and I know with Lego blocks you get the guys set and you get the girls set, so sometimes they're pink and purple and white, yes, and with the blues you got more like the green, blue, red, that type of thing. And so I want to add color to my, and Ryan, also I want my object to be glass. How do I make it glass? How do I make it plastic? No, but Ryan, it's metal now, because so how do I make it look metal? Okay, we're gonna learn all about that, and it's pretty simple, because when I started off using Blender, or I also used Maya for quite a long time, there's a lot of things to making your object look whatever material it is. All right, so first of all, we're just going to do shading. All right, if you want your object to look like a brick, or you want it to have texture and stuff like that, we're going to actually look at that next week, because we need to look at something called UV unwrapping. That is another awesome tutorial. We're going to start off with a very simple step here, and it's shading, and that's just adding a color to your object, and then at the same time it's now looking at making your object look plastic, or making it look metal. And the first thing that I want to start off with is, I've spoken before about your different layouts here that Blender's already done. I'm going to go into the shading workspace right over here. All right, and the first thing to take note of here is, what's nice is that you've got a very basic setup here. We're going to get into what this background here is and what this thing is over here, all right, a little bit later. But let's start off with, so first of all, I've got this window, this panel over here, and what this panel is basically my that is my 3D world right there, believe it or not. And then you got this, hang on, let me help you out of here. I'm going to go into, all right, so if you do remember, if I press Z, I can change my different shading modes. So right there I was in material preview, okay. All this is that there's an environment to reflect. See this ball over here? This ball represents what your object is reflective. If it's reflective, then that was going to be reflective, and this over here shows your lighting. Okay, so I'm going to press Z, I'm going to go back to solid mode. Okay, so this is just going to help us work, and then we're going to go back to render preview just now. All right, my controls is still the same. Like I said, go look at my previous tutorial, I teach all about that. But now you got this new panel sitting over here, and this panel over here is where you're going to do your shading, aka the coloring of your object. And the controls is basically the same as here. So if I click my middle mouse button and I drag around, that moves my object around, and if I holding and if I scroll with my mouse wheel, right, then I can zoom in and I can zoom out. You basically work in Blender with these things, and they're called nodes, and you connect them together, right? They're like building blocks. If I add one node on top of another, you get the effect of it. All right, what am I talking about? How do I even create this? If you guys have ever used Photoshop, you got layers, right? But the layer on top affects the layer underneath. What do I mean? Okay, if I've got a piece of paper and I cover it and I put a black big A4 piece of paper over that piece of paper, you only see what's on top. It's similar to this, all right? When you start connecting nodes together, all right, this over here is your final output, and everything you put before it adds together. So in other words, if I have anyway, you start adding them together, guys. That's basically what you do. And I don't know if you saw it, I can select and then I can drag around. Okay, right, so let's get into this. So first of all, what's great about, so this is the standard and the shader I was telling you that Blender has, right? And it's called the principal shader. All right, what makes this different is because now same thing, Shift A, and I can also add other shaders, right? There's the textures, we'll get into next week, shaders, and you get these. You get a diffuse shader. That's basically the color emission, if it's glowing, gloss, if it's got a gloss, glossy, if it's gloss, the difference between gloss and glossy, we'll get into that, and then you can mix them together. You can it gets really hectic, but this shade over here is beautiful because this covers a lot. And the nice thing about this shader is that it has something called Fresnel, all right, or in French Fresnel, I don't know, but Fresnel. And what Fresnel basically is that if I wanted to do this before the shader, I would have to add in the actual node, all right, Fresnel. I don't even know if it's still part of this, but yes, you would have to add it in by default. And Fresnel is something that creates a realism to an object. And Fresnel basically is this, okay, and every object has Fresnel, all right? Basically what it is, and I'm going to show you these few examples, all right? If you look at this glossy ball over here, in the center, it's not as reflective. But then as I go outer to the outer end of the ball, it starts getting more reflective, right? It starts getting more shiny. And that is basically Fresnel, right? It's not 100%, even if the ball's like glossy and it is reflective, it's more reflective at the edges than what it is to the center. And that is something that naturally happens with any object in the real world. Take, for example, this lake of water. You notice how the closer it gets, the closer I am, the water that is closer to me, I can see right through the water. But if you notice, the more the more further away the water gets, the more reflective it starts becoming. That's how it is, and it works with everything else. Look at this teacup, for example. More towards the edges, it's more reflective. More to the center, it's less reflective. All right, and that happens with everything. Look at this wooden floor, for example. Can you see how with the reflections, it's more reflective the more further away I look away from me, but the closer I look, the part of the wooden floor that's closer to me, the less reflective it is, right? And that is Fresnel. It's what helps to it creates more realism. All right, now before this you would just say you would add a bit of a glossy. You can even like mix shaders where only certain parts of this wooden floor example is reflective but the other parts are not. But you notice how it's just the parts that are reflective are fully reflective, all right? And that's not how it works, all right? You see there's just something that's just, and like I said, everything's got Fresnel, all right? Look at this example, and this comes from an actual website where this guy actually talks about this, that everything has Fresnel, all right? It might not be like, for example, a brick. If you look at it from the angle, all right, it might not be fully glossy, but you can notice how there's just this bit of a bit more of a gloss the further away, all right? And even looking at this rough ball right here, it's exactly the same. You see how on the edges there's just this bit more of a shine than from the middle end, all right? And what's nice is that this principal shader naturally adds that, and it naturally works it out depending on what you do. All right, so let's kick this in. The minute I've selected it already, Alright, there is the default principal shader already on here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my 3D cursor over here. Alright, at the moment it is not on the actual floor of the, okay, I'm just going to enable this floor again. Right now it's not directly on the floor, so I'm just going to move it so that the bottom of the block is sitting on the grid floor. Alright, and then as well as my 3D cursor, which is already in the center there. Why? Because I'm going to add in a plane. Alright, Control A, mesh, plane, and that adds it over there. Then I'm going to click S and I'm going to scale it up, and you're going to see now why I'm doing this. I'm going to press Alt A, so I've got nothing selected. I'm going to go press Z and go back into my material preview. Right, there you go. Pretty awesome. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my light, I'm going to change this to a sun. Okay, I'm just wondering why am I not getting shadows. Oh wait, I'm probably not getting shadows because I just need to make sure that scene lights. There you go. Okay, now I've got shadows. Pretty cool. There you go. So all that I basically did was I made sure that the scene lights are affected. Okay, that's removing that. Okay, anyway, so there you go. I'm gonna go back to my solid view. We're gonna have a look at that now. It's just so that I can actually, I'm gonna select my cube block so that I can work with my shader here. Now, the beautiful thing about this, now I know you looking at this thing, there's just a whole lot of sliders and stuff here, and you're like, I'm gonna get lost in this. I knew this wasn't a good idea. No, just stay with me, guys. I'm gonna show you this, how beautiful this is. All right, and even though you got a whole lot of sliders here, there are only a few sliders, about 3 or 4 of them, that you're going to pay attention to. The other ones, Blender's going to work out all for you. Alright, so don't worry, just chill. Alright, and the first one is this, is your base color. Your base color is basically the color of your cube. So I'm going to make it cyan. Let's make it cyan, shall we? Right. Now it's cyan. Okay, let's go back to there you go. Okay, my goodness. Can we just, right, let's go to material preview. You know what? I don't know if I like this light. I'm going to change it back to point light. There you go. That's more like it. That's a lot easier. Okay, so you can see that my object has now changed to that. Okay, and so your base color is basically your base color, right? The next one that you want to look at is this, is metallic. And basically what this is now your object can be one of 2 things in the world, all right? It is either dielectric or it's metal. What the hell is dielectric? Well, first of all, let's look at metal. Metal is a shiny object, all right? It's something that is reflective. It is 100% reflective. That is objects like chrome bar, metal ball, metal, any kind of metal. All right, and then if it's not metal, it's dielectric. Dielectric is basically now your fabric. It's any other object in that, wood, plastic. Yeah, that's dielectric. And so, if your object is metal, all right, I know that this has a slider between, but you've got to now take, it's basically, you set this to either 0 or 1. So if it's dielectric, so if you're making something plastic or fabric, or if you're making something that's, yeah, I said plastic already, right, like wood or whatever, it's going to be dielectric. You're going to leave it over there, okay? If it is metal, you want to take it all the way up to 1, all right? And you'll see that this, you can see it's got a bit more of that sheen over there. And perhaps you'll say to me, but what happens if my metal object is rusted? All right, now that's completely different because that's still a metal object and you got a dielectric overlay over that. What the hell am I talking about? We're going to get into that when we get UV texturing because we're going to add textures. But that is for next lesson. The next thing I want you to look at is this roughness. Now this roughness affects basically your reflection. And perhaps your metal object is fully reflective. I'm going to take, you know, if you think about how rough is your reflection, right? Let's say I'm going to take this down to 0.1. Oh, look at that. We're starting to get reflections. And now you get more an idea on what I mean by if something is reflective. Now you'll see when I pull the roughness up, it's going to get a little bit fuzzy as we go along. Alright, so there you can set basically how rough or reflective it is. See, now you start getting it. If I go full rough, right, and with this one you can adjust it. It doesn't need to be 0 or 1. You can see it's not really reflective. Okay, pretty weird, eh? And then I can bring my reflective down. Maybe it's how rough your reflections are. Alright, so you can see, if you're doing something like wood, like a metal chrome bar, this is now where you set how rough your reflections are. Yeah, you can sit, so maybe you got a metal, but it's not, there you go. You want something like that. See, it's looking rough. Or you want something that is now, you can see it's dielectric. You can also set your roughness here, but you'll see it adjusts according to whether it is. So see there now we've got more like this plasticky looking but reflective kind of material here. Pretty awesome, eh? And just to show you, so if I have to create, okay, so Shift A, and I have to create a let's say I create a sphere here. Alright, let's try and get it out here. There it is. Okay, alright, I'm going to right click, I'm going to say shade smooth, and guess what, look here. Okay, so this is what's cool. If I've created this material over here, by the way, you can name it right over here. So if I'm going to say dielectric, right, and let's say I create this guy over here. Now if I want to apply this material to this guy over here, but I don't want to go through, I've already spent like 3 days busy adjusting and tweaking this material, and now I don't want to come and do the same. Okay, yes, suppose I can go in and just copy the values, or I can just go here, and over here I've got I'll have all the materials that I've used within my scene, so I can just click there, and there you go, Bob's your uncle. Now do you see how, look at that, look how plastic you can see the reflections in it. I want to also, and the reason why I did this was to show you how the Fresnel works. So you can see in the center here it's less reflective. Alright, look there, that's what it should be reflecting. That's 100% reflective ball. This ball is just showing what this ball is looking at, basically what it's looking at. You can see how it's less reflective and it's more reflective on the edges. Right, so I'm going to create but now if I want to create a new material, I'm going to click here. I can name it, I can say metal. So I'm going to make my new metal material. Alright, I'm not going to give it a color, although, hey, something to note here is that depending on what type of metal you're going to use, that is what you're going to make your base color. Alright, so if you want something more gold looking, alright, let's make it full metal. Let's type it in. 1. There you go, look at that. It's gold looking. Oh look, I've even colored my my base here. Alright, I'm going to give it a new material rather. So I've selected it. Click on this number. No, let's not do that. Yes, new material. Thank you. Alright, you can see now how I've given it a gold color just by changing the base color. Alright, I can go into my roughness. I can make it, ooh, look at that, fully reflective. Look how easy this is by changing your roughness. Okay, so there you go, you got plastic. Can you see it actually looks plastic? Metal, it actually looks metal. Alright, but Ryan, it's maybe more metal looking because it's round. Okay, let's change it down. Can you see how plastic it's looking? Even with adjusting the roughness. Look, I've got a marble looking material there. Wow, that is so cool. Okay, I'm gonna make it metal, 100% on. Look at that, look how beautiful that is. Alright, let's add 0.1 roughness. Ooh, look at that. Very, very nice. Very, very beautiful. Okay, so you're paying attention to your base color, whether it's metal or dielectric, and then whether your roughness, basically, on your reflections. And then the third thing, I actually just picked up, see, base color. Oh no, never mind. Scratch that out. And then your emission, let's say it's something that is glowing. Okay, so let's say this ball is glowing. metal. It is a glowing, can you see how it looks now, like a glowy color? Alright, let's go into my light. Let me switch the light completely off. Okay, I can just poke the eye out here. No, you know what, it's because okay, we're going to look at this later. So this is my world, and basically this is what it's reflecting, because if you're in the real world, all right, there are objects around your world that give off light as well. So for example, if I'm now here during the day, guess what, I have light coming from the window. If I'm outside, this map that you can see here of the trees or whatever, it's simulating the real world, right? That's why you can see, you know, it's emitting light as well. So I'm going to turn that off. Nope, doesn't work. Okay, oh, here we go. This is where you do it. Strength 0. There you go, and you can see my ball is still glowing. Okay, and yes, you can even give it a bit of a glow. Alright, we'll look at this later. This is your bloom, and let's change the threshold here. Wait, let's change the radius. You can actually see how it's given a glow. Anyway, that's a tutorial for a completely other day. Alright, so I'm going to go in here, I'm going to put its strength back at 1 again. I'm going to go back to this. Okay, pretty awesome. So that is creating your different materials, and whether you want it dielectric or whether you want it whether you wanted a metal. If you're interested in any of these other guys over here, because obviously, but they put the slider there for a reason. Yes, you are absolutely right. And what I can tell you is this. So e.g. my specular, you see how you've got now you've got diffuse and you've got specular. Diffuse would be your actual color. Specular would actually be, you see how you've got all these shiny bits on here. Those are your specular. It's basically like your reflective back. Alright, so that's what that is over there. It's adjusting that level, whether you want it. You can see how I'm changing, yes, my specular. Alright, let's make it a completely, there you go. I think that's where you more see it. Alright, that's your specular, but you know, I really recommend that you don't really adjust that. My specular tint will, you see how it's got a white color, the actual tint. Here you can bring it so that it's got more of a yellow tint, believe it or not. I think that maybe is where your, although with metallic, your metal, it's doing it automatically. Okay, your roughness, your anastrophic, that's basically, you know, when you've got a metal, the bottom of a frying pan, you got that like really stretched reflective, so that's what that is. Your rotation of the actual reflection, so this is fully metal. I'm going to show you now. Alright, your sheen is when you've got like a material, there's more like a machine sheen, but I think that works more with your, so if I, yeah, you don't really see that much of a difference. That's the same thing as your specular tint. It pushes it more towards, so instead of it being a white, it pushes it more to that, your base color. Clear coat, I'm not too sure of. Same with the roughness. Your IOR, your info of refraction is basically, if you've got a glass and the thicker the glass, the more, you know, if you look through a thin glass, you've got a bit of a distortion. The thicker the glass, the more you know, when you look through a glass, the more sort of distorted it gets. So that's it. To choose that, you don't really stuff around with that. That you sort of go online and you look at the different IOR of glass, IOR of magnifying glass, IOR of, and you'll get that. But that, I know that same thing, you leave it, that's quite standard over there. And this over here, transmission, is to do with how, I think this is something else that you can also play with. So this is how see-through your object is. Okay, so push this up, you'll see it's just working it out. Ooh, look at that. Okay, now it looks like a marble, but because it's see-through. All right, yeah, and the reason why it's warped is exactly what I've just spoken about now, is because of your IOR. Okay, and then your alpha is basically how see-through and that it is. Like I said, the rest, it basically works out for you already. So this is your shader, pretty basic. Next week we're going to get into texturing, which is now if you want your object to have a bit more of a brick to it, a texture. All right, so if it is a brick, or whether it's fabric, or whether it's, you only want certain parts. Let's say you got metal and it's rusted, you've got to do UV texturing, and then we place that map on top. We're going to do that next week. That one's also pretty excited, but now you get to play around with your different objects and that. And I've showed you how to apply different materials to your different objects. And something I will just show you quickly, I'll add this in for bonus, is that if I want this side of different material towards this piece over here, you can actually do that according to, so if I go into edit mode and face selection, so let's say I want only this part over here to be different material. All right, I can do that over here. This is your material properties, and see I've got the default here, so I select that which I want different, okay, whether I want more than one, or whether I select them, face selection. Then I can add a new material, and then what I do is I say assign it to my selection. Now I've assigned it, and I can create my new material, and let's say we can go drastically pink, for crying out loud. Go back into object mode, and you can see that which I've selected, so you can do that as well. All right, so there you go. So guys, very quick, very simple, awesome tutorial. Guys, I'll see you guys next week. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button, because what you want is that when I do release this tutorial, you want to get notified, right? And I mean, that's to go with all the other tutorials, all the other shows that we have on Active TV. That's why you want to subscribe, because we have like shows that release every day of different things. Okay, we have just go check out our playlist. There are tons of stuff, and then every day at 3 o'clock, Pastor Gavin also releases what's called the Situation Room. He talks about some interesting, hot, juicy, all the things that's happening at this time, hitting the news headlines. So right now we've got the pandemic, the COVID-19 virus, coronavirus disease outbreak, and he gives a lot of updates, guys, not from the media, because you want to go watch that out, because you don't know if the media is talking the truth, but I promise you Pastor Gav is, and he brings in a bit of the word and what the Bible actually says about today. So you want to go check that out, the Situation Room. But like I said, if you subscribe and you hit the bell button, you'll get notified, because all of us forget, right? All right, so with that said and done, guys, until next week, I will see you then. Happy blending. All right, and like I said, if you do something interesting or you need help, there's my email address. Then you can tell me or ask me, Ryan, but I don't understand this, or mine's not doing this, or you want to show me just simply what you've done. That's pretty cool. All right, go email me on that one. So until next week, see you then. Cheerio.